では、オレネさん、よろしくお願いします。
That wasn't in my script. Well, I'm a performer. I sing and play the violin, so being on stage should be familiar territory, but I must say this is definitely quite different. Wow. If you're wondering why I'm talking with this strange accent, it's because I'm from Australia. G'day. We really do say that. But I fell in love with Japan. My tangible relationship with Japan actually began right here at the University of Tokyo, where I studied. My love affair with Japan and my passion for music has shaped my theme for today. So, I'm hoping there are some classical music fans here today, even if you've seen a concerto or a symphony once, just so we can start from a point of reference. Bit hard to see, but oh, lovely, a few of you. Thank you. Omedetou. Because this next story is going to make you sick. Well, I'm sorry if it does. This is an experience I had at the beginning of this year. So I love Japan so much, I hadn't been back to Sydney for 5 years. So when I did, I naturally visited the Sydney Opera House. An incredible night of music. What could possibly go wrong? The audience was really into it, extremely enthusiastic, and they responded to this amazing music with bravos and a massive round of applause, clapping away in between movements. Uh-oh. Exactly that. You see, there's this golden rule in classical concerts where you just don't clap in between movements. Why the hell not? Call it tradition, still observed in most places around the world. In Japan, surely. Am I right? We try doing that and people may sort of start looking at you a bit, you know. But what's the big deal? People cough and blow their nose during that time anyway, you could say. But that's because it's out of necessity. So I think that's a bit different. Classical, orchestral music was clearly becoming more accessible to a wider audience, which I think is wonderful. You hear good music, you like it, you respond to it straight away. Sure. Why not? But my point is, that incident made me realize something. I loved that tension, that moment of stillness after the orchestral members had page turned to the next movement. It wasn't until that night at the Opera House, when people clapped at a moment where once there was no sound, that I realized I really missed that space. So today, I'd like to focus on a significant element of music, one which is unfortunately often neglected. Won't be talking about notes. In fact, in a sense, I won't be talking about sound. Silence. But not just any old silence, mind you, but what I like to call meaningful silences. It's all around us, really. This, right now, in this very hall, you and I are creating something very special. And I find this to be incredibly powerful and think that it's something that's worth more mention. That night when people clapped at the Opera House, I felt disoriented. That meaningful silence had been broken. Because you see, a movement is like a chapter from a book. Sure, it can be self-contained, but it isn't the full narrative. The story doesn't end there. And for me, in that moment of silence, the music still continues. that silence is just as musical as the notes that precede and follow it. Now, I think most of you have seen this symbol before, squiggly line. In Western music notation, this is called the rest. And here's the rest. Oh, someone laughed, thank you. They come in all different shapes and sizes, as you can see. The performer is required to stop performing for the indicated duration. Could be for one beat, could be several bars. Rests create rhythm and give form to music. Now, I find that too often performers are so focused on the notes and on other technical aspects that they underestimate the value of silence. And these are still the more obvious examples. Not all meaningful silences are indicated on a score. It is up to the interpreter to express the soundless. It could be an upbeat or the end of a phrase. Even that tiny bit in between two notes, however long or short, it doesn't matter. It's a form of artistic expression. I like to think of it as playing silence, in a sense. I think in great pieces of music, writers make great use of these meaningful silences, and the performers who are able to interpret these add to this incredible experience. Take the late Whitney Houston. I think you may know this one. If I should stay, you know this one, right? And I wish you joy and happiness, but above all this, I wish you love. So on and so on. Music isn't just about notes, silences. They have so much to say without saying anything. Sounds a bit zen, ko-anish, but meaningful silences create drama. They add room for contemplation, for catharsis. They aren't simply a lack of notes. They alone can have as much vivacity and pathos as their sounding counterparts. And I think they deserve to be treated with the same status. Now, I keep referring to these meaningful silences by different names: rests, space, moments. Because frankly, there isn't a singular word in the English vocabulary that, really captures, really grasps this concept. But when I was studying Japanese, I found it. Ma, the spatio-temporal aesthetic. It's a concept that exists in various disciplines of Japanese art. It's an integral part of Japanese culture, where the seemingly non-existent silent entities are on a par with that which is clearly visible. I think the very existence of this term just goes to show how much respect and appreciation there is for the invisible silences. I mean, if anything, ma is treated with even more significance than its visible counterparts. In North theatre, there's the expression, senu tokoro ga omoshiroki. That it's what the actor doesn't do when they're not moving or saying anything. That's what's really interesting. So when you think of ma, maybe kendo, ikebana, these things might spring to mind. But it doesn't just stop here in high art. This concept is everywhere. It even appears, quite often, in everyday speech. My personal favourite. Well, let's hope you don't have to use this every day. But manuke, nuke, from the verb nukeru, meaning to be devoid of something. Hence, manuke is one who is lacking ma. And this actually translates to senseless, silly. So ma is that essential component without which makes you a fool. So that's ma in a nutshell. I think it's such a beautiful expression, don't you? I mean, I hope it becomes as universal as terms like umami or omotenashi. I mean, it's so short, easy to remember. You know, I think that needs a bit more ma. Oh, I love her use of ma in that. You know, telling you, there wasn't enough ma. It's so short, very easy to remember. But that's not to say that this concept doesn't exist outside of Japan. There just isn't a word as concise, in English anyway. Take Cézanne's so-called unfinished works. There's a certain allure about them. The bits he didn't paint, the blank canvas, I think are ma. And I think that Cézanne's strategic use of ma adds another layer of aesthetic appeal to his works. The essential is invisible to the eye. 大切なものは目に見えない. So, giving these silent entities presence, respect, I believe is the key to becoming a more convincing artist. And I think it's an important concept, not just for the entertainer, but for the entertained. It can lead to a heightened aesthetic experience. So I'd like to end by performing a little something. This is a song immortalized by Andrea Bocelli, whom I had the honor to record with recently. This is also the song that I sang when I graduated from my course from the University of Tokyo. So let me just end by saying that if it weren't for the fond memories I made in Japan, the friends I made at Todai, I don't think I would have encountered ma. So thank you so much for giving this meaningful silence a name. Maを大事にして一曲歌いたいと思います. Let's make those silences.
Cuando sono sola nell'orizzonte mancano le parole, si vedono il cielo e la stanza quando il sole, se non ci sei, con me su le finestre, mostrati il cuore che è acceso. Quando sono lontano nell'orizzonte mancano le parole e uso solo con me, tu sacred con me, io solo te.